Even though. Right, it's small. It'll be this. Oh.
Yeah, I would tell them they were not Jonathan in the middle school musical and events rehearsal.
I'm hearing a lot about their middle school musicals. Everyone's very excited. Is he in the production or is he assisting with the production?
In it, he is a townsperson. Excellent.
Oh.
Yeah. Ready? Okay. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Monday, January 13th, 2025 Board of Trustees meeting. First, we'll go around the room. Mark Kissinger, President.
Lisa Scoons, UHLS Board Liaison.
Sarah Patterson, Secretary.
Gail Sacco, trustee.
Laura Tabetta, Trustee.
Caroline Brincatella, Vice President.
Sherry Whiting, board treasurer.
Jeff Kirkpatrick, Library Director, and
Michelle Walsh, Co-Vice President.
okay, thanks. The first order of business is public participation. Just to remind people, it's a 3-minute. Every member of the public gets 3 minutes to participate, to say whatever they want as it's related to library business. Do we have any public participation? Nope. Okay, we'll go to the review of previous meeting minutes, pages 2 through 4. This is the meeting of Monday, December 9th. Take a second to look at it again. Motion on the.
So moved.
Okay, Sarah.
Second.
Carolyn. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand or saying aye. Okay, seeing no opposition, that motion carries unanimously. Going on to the financial report, pages 5 through 14, and treasurer's update. Jerry.
Right now, revenue is stable. We expect to receive the final payment of real property taxes in April. Total expenses are 1% under budget compared to about 2% at this time last year. And salaries are on budget since we are fully staffed. You can see here the list of investments, cash and money market savings and CDs. We have a $2 million CD. It's a 3-month CD. It was purchased in October. It's due at the end of January. We plan to reinvest a portion of those funds after we review our cash position and see what we need for expenses. And in consultation with the finance committee, we hope to reinvest a portion of it, probably for 3 months. We'll see. We'll see what the rates are and what makes sense. Other than that, you see that this, we don't have the dates on there, but the other investments aren't due until the end of the year, around May. I don't know if you want to scroll up to the report, if anybody has any questions on the report, on the, revenue and expenses statement. Scroll up. For that.
Some direction.
Yeah, happy to take any questions that anybody might have.
I have a question. Oh, you mean people in the audience? Or you mean?
Board members.
Just
Yeah,
the
board
board.
members.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
I just wanted to confirm that we're looking at funds that need to carry us through until September 2025, correct?
Right.
Our fiscal year ends June 30th,
Right,
but we need to have enough money to carry us until taxes are collected.
that's right.
So we're really looking at a 15-month budget and not a 12-month.
No,
budget.
we are really looking at a 12-month
Okay.
budget.
All right,
But we make sure that we have cash in the bank in our savings account to carry us through for those summer months until.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, but we only look at the budget over a period of the fiscal year. Okay, and speaking of the budget, we are beginning to work on it. I hope to have a draft for review in the February.
Will there be a finance committee meeting?
Yes, yes.
Just as much as.
Well, I'll send an email tomorrow to try to get some dates that are good for everybody.
Great.
Yeah, yeah. And it's gonna be closer to the board meeting because I've really just started working on the budget. I need a little time.
Good, more time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I was going to add was that Sherry and I spoke very briefly today about setting up a finance committee meeting, and we received your request, Gail, and we'll be working on all of that very soon.
Any questions on the financial report or the warrant? Goes to page page 14, I think. Any questions? I had one question. On page 12, or one of two on the warrant, there's a $2,900 payment to the town. And just wonder what that was.
The special district taxes, like, fire department, because all the tax bills went out, but we
Okay.
don't pay technical taxes, but we do pay to those special district.
Okay. So fire, what about, is that water too? Or-
Water,
That'll be next month, that's all right.
yeah,
Okay, so fire, so basically it's fire EMS.
yeah,
Is that,
and that's for the 4 properties, 451 Delaware, 59 Borthwick, 53,
53,
and then 51. The ones where our parking lot sits now.
okay. Okay, that sounds good. Any other questions? Anyone else? Okay, take a motion on the financial report, including the warrant expenses. Gail, second. Laura, all those in favor, signify by saying yes or raise your hand. To no opposition, that motion carries as well. Thank you, Sherry. Personnel report, page 15.
Just no action requested.
So you're recruiting, are you recruiting for any positions at the moment? No, okay. Interesting, okay.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Sherry. Not Sherry.
The library clerk at the bottom.
Yeah, this one
Yeah.
is approved to fill
Okay,
December 16th. Thanks, Tracy.
so you're recruiting a 9.8 hour week of library clerk,
Correct.
Yes.
okay. And the rest is,
They're all on hold for 23, 22, 21.
okay. Okay, there's nothing to do on that, let's note that, director's report, page 16.
So we had a broken window on the front, sort of off the children's patio. I don't know if anybody's noticed that recently. It's not a regular piece of glass, so it took a little while for that piece to come in, but it got replaced today. With much less drama than I was anticipating, so. And it was not tempered glass, but now it is tempered glass, so that's nice. The automatic doors up until Friday night, the outside automatic doors hadn't been working, so we had to leave the outside doors open at a door width. Stanley came eventually after about a week of nudging, and they were able to fix that on Friday night. So we're back and operating, and that helps keep the temperature in the hallway warmer because it was very cold last week. And having one of those doors open, you don't realize how much having that sort of airlock between the two doors keeps that hallway much warmer. So anyway, that's all set. And
Did
then,
they, I'll just stop there. Did they indicate that was something you needed to fix?
oh, it's been fixed.
It's been
Yeah,
fixed.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
But not something we need to replace. It was something that was fixable.
fixable. Yeah, there's the actuator, there's always someone like a flange or an actuator, but it was in this case, the actuator that was replaced, so.
Okay.
And then patrons have been complaining about the cold temperatures in some of the study rooms. Again, mitigated somewhat now with the temperatures are a little bit warmer. When the temperatures are cold, that back wall of the library is cold. So we had some patrons in the study who were complaining about the temperatures. So just to have that noted. Museum passes were great last system. I just want to note that we went to a new system, so it has been adopted relatively quickly by the patrons, which is good. And while we were closed on the 24th and 25th, we had 8 reservations for people who wanted museum passes while we weren't even here. So they weren't for those days, but they were able to reserve them without any staff interaction. So that's great. The Optiflex machine, which is a machine that would allow people with visual impairments to be able to read a book, and it would zoom it up on a screen, has been in the library for a long time. It has died, so we've replaced it with something called the Zoom Max Snow, which is performs the same function but is portable, and that can be requested at the information desk, and it does a lot more. Like the technology is a lot better, so it does OCR and it screen reads, and it goes up to 19% magnification. So that's good for folks who have visual disability. So that's nice. And then we added Chinese and Spanish language to our emails in page point, the sort of welcome set of emails that people get when they sign up for a new card. If they're doing that online, they can elect to say, oh, I prefer if you communicate to me in Chinese and Spanish. So that first whole set of emails have now been translated through our translation service, and folks can get those emails to those languages. So, yeah, great. Yeah, it's right in the long range plan. You bet.
And you'll be able to port. I mean,
I will. We will.
I will look
We'll know.
forward to seeing how often it's utilized and
The whole
percentages.
the whole way that Patron Point engages when folks sign on with a new card, and then they, instead of just getting a welcome packet right the day they come, it's a lot of information for people to take in. They're coming in, they want to sign up for a new card, they want a book. They're here for some reason. They want to do the thing that they need to do. We drop a lot of information on them right at once. Patron Point allows that information to come out in draft in a way that we know works well and just keeps engagement up a little bit. And so we follow up 1 week later or 2 weeks later and say, hey, did you know we also have this and that? So now we can do that in multiple languages, which is and we added a second photocopier during December. So that was a commonly requested thing by many members of the public, especially as we will be coming into tax season here shortly. Love to make photocopies of all that stuff. So only one of them has a fax. So one is a fax and photocopier, and the other one's just a photocopier scanner. So that's there. Lots of great programs. Little Sunday Music was here. We had that competitive puzzling program, which people always like, where we take out a bunch of the same puzzles and see who can be the fastest. Folks work in teams. We had a cool emergency preparedness course, which I think is apt. A good time that we're doing that. I just mentioned this is a lot of text, but I wanted to just bring back around and mention the Library Speaker Consortium, the virtual author talks. So it was a good season of those authors. It allows us to connect with authors that are far better than we could attract to come into the building, so people of more national note. And that has been a great partnership with them this is our 3rd year, just starting our 3rd year.
There were several of those that jived with our book discussion group. So we read a book and then somebody would say, oh, look, what's going on? Yeah.
Well, and it's great because you can watch it live, and there's a little bit more, there's questions and interactions that you can have if you watch it live, but they are all recorded and available for later. So, if you're like, oh, that was that last year, they're all still there on the website. So
I also like that they're not just all adult.
correct.
I like that there's a mix of adult and young adult.
That was one of their goals for this year, was to increase YA and J book titles and try to create. I mean, their focus absolutely was just sort of adult general audience titles, and they're really trying to spread out a little bit more this year. So I'm glad you noticed that. That's good. And then in youth services, we had just always some kind words about movement and music. Continues to be super duper popular. Some cookie pictures, but just here again, movement, music attendance high, consistently, story times high, tiny tots high. Even on Saturday story times, that has taken a while to build that audience. But that's, we're getting 25 and 35 people here on the weekends. So that is all fantastic. New Year's at noon, which is a perennial favorite. Over the course of the hour, they had 130. They didn't have 130 people in the room at the same time, obviously, but over the course of the hour, they had a bunch of people, a bunch of kids in here to celebrate the New Year's at noon, which is nice. And then as far as outreach is concerned, Dan did the Bethlehem Holiday Parade. We did a Cub Scout service project where they came here and they decorated with snowflakes. They decorated the service desk with snowflakes. If you noticed over the last month, before the holidays, there were a bunch of snowmen and all over the place. And we just let the kids go wild, decorate. Great, have fun. We're still at the pit, still building that audience. That's just coming back from the pandemic. So this is, we're still in the infancy there. And then first night, again, we had 874 interactions at first night. It was great, thanks to Robert and to Nancy, who were there with us. And, had some good questions, lots of great fireworks. They punch above their weight with the fireworks. So it was nice. It was a good event. And then another pop-up at the Spinney at Van Dyke. They had 19 people there. So that worked out well. So, and then of course, the door count's over 20,000 this month because of the vote. So we had a nice big door count. So that makes me happy. So special thanks to the staff on the day working around to keep the flow inside working and keep people. It was really, really cold outside. So we met people were standing in line in the library. So that's that. Up on circulation just a little bit this month. It's December. It's always the slowest month of the year for almost everything. Just an interesting trend here, the borrowed from other libraries and loaned to other libraries keeps the number that we borrow from other libraries continues to drop, and the number that we loan to other libraries continues to rise. So it's just something, it's just a trend that's different than it has been. So it's something I watch. And other than that, lots of good physical museum passes, good increases, and then obviously still good increases in the e-materials. So that's that. Any questions?
Well, Jeff, I just wanted to say I was glad to see a second copier in the library. I think
Yes.
it would be very useful. And also on social media recently, someone had asked, where can I go in town to fax something? And sure enough, you can go to our library. So it's not a defunct service. People are still using it, and that's great that we can provide that. And then secondly, just personally, I wanted to say thank you so much for explaining to me how to pronounce Huga from Denmark, because I knew what it was referring to, and but I never knew how to pronounce it. And that sounds like it was a great program. You had an attendance of 24 for that, so that's great.
It was good. And actually we were originally, I can't remember what we had scheduled for the community room. Oh, it was the Friends. Actually, the Friends of the Library were supposed to be in the community room, and Hugo was supposed to be in this room. And because the attendance had started to creep up and we had a waiting list, the Friends graciously agreed to move into this room and allowed that over there so they could have more people. Because they needed to spread out. They needed a little table. It's not Huga if you're sitting on top of everybody. So,
Right. That's great.
thank you.
And thanks to you and the staff for going kind of above and beyond for the holiday things, for the parade,
Yeah.
which was on a cold Saturday night. And for first night, you guys do a great job on that. And that is certainly, a day that a lot of people consider a holiday and would, often make other plans. So thanks to you and the
Yes.
staff on that.
You're welcome. Yeah, we've been lucky 2 years in a row now at first night. Like, you never know what happens, right? On the 31st. So it was good. It was quite warm. And so it's just so great to see so many people out and about. So
What do you think the wireless use reflects? That's in library use or that's?
no, that's all the wireless
That's
networks
all the
across the
wireless
town.
networks.
Yeah. I don't know. There's some of these numbers that, I believe the number.
Shopping?
Well, we had the town, the one that bounced across and over to the town that covers the park on the other side of town hall. That one was down for a little while, just so whatever the connection between us and the building over there. So the maintenance guys, our crew worked with the town hall to get that back up and running. That could be part of that.
And then I wanted to ask with the little night music, so you have the setup for the musicians, and then you have the chairs. So
Yeah.
67 is a pretty full room.
Yeah, it's decent.
A few more people and you would have had to start telling people there was no room for them?
They would go to 90. 90 is our,
Even with the musician set up in the front?
depends on how big they, if it's a larger band, then it gets tight. We can usually accommodate the band up front. Depending on, if it was like the larger, I mean, one time we were doing the, one of the choirs, Bethlehem Senior Chorus, and there's like, there were almost as many people in the group that were as in the audience, so it starts to, when it gets bigger, you have to
So
sort
it
of cut
depends
that.
on who the musicians.
I had a question on the registered BPL borrowers.
Yeah.
So you're, if I read this correctly, you're showing a 68% increase year, December 23, December 24, the number of people that actually got
Came in and got library cards that month.
cards that month, okay? And how does that trend look at, like, is that a large number, large increase, a small?
Well, that's a big increase. That's many more, and that was probably again in no small part due to election day, because we handed out 15 cards that day, so that's a lot. And then,
Yeah.
you know, just a general interest, people coming in and getting library cards. That's
Okay.
a big number.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I don't know the 10,095 number represents, but is that the total?
That's the total for last year. That's how many people we added in total last year. So that's how many card registrations there were for the whole year. So so far fiscal year to date, we're at 634. So because we're at exactly halfway through the year, so you can get some good looks at this. So we're well above pace compared to last year for new card registrations.
Okay, and what was in the long range plan on that? I remember there was some initiative to.
Yeah, you wanted to get it to,
Right.
I mean, it's a great goal.
Yeah. Okay, I just want.
That's why we're going to the spinny, trying to get people.
You know,
to the
it's a
library.
it's a great thing. I'm just want to point it out that,
Yeah.
you know, we're making progress.
We're doing good.
It's good.
How many people have library card? I know you told us before, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, so if you don't remember, it's okay, but like overall, do we know?
I'm gonna look at Phil, and there's a couple of different ways to look at it.
How do you count it?
1,000 total. Thanks.
And then active users is the other way, right? That's the other way to do it.
Active users is
Like us.
They had a very pretty chart for me this month that I did not include in my board report, so I know Phil's like, good job, not including
There
that
you
chart.
go.
I will put that in next month.
There you go.
The chart will be in there.
Awesome.
Look at the chart.
Okay, any other questions, comments, concerns on the director report? Okay, UHLS report?
This afternoon, Jeff set the information out about the Advocacy Day on Wednesday, February 5th. Some people are thinking about going. The executive director position posting is up and the committee has begun meeting. As of our meeting last week, I think they had 2 candidates. There's a couple new board members on Upper Hudson from Albany and Troy. And I noted there was a continuing ed session that our own Jeff and Mark attended
We didn't,
Or-
we
or participated in
Participated. Did.
on sensitive topics. So,
We did.
good job.
thank you.
Any questions for Lisa on that? Okay, going to new business, Assemblyman Scott Bendett's special ed student grant. I think it was, I don't know the exact details, but it was like $1,500,
1546.
1546.
So we received $20,000 from in the special legislative grant. And they divided equally among the 13 libraries that are in his district. Actually, all the rest of them are on the other side of the river. And most of them are in Rensselaer County, some are in southern Washington County, and a few are in northern Columbia.
We are the only town in that district on this side of it.
That's great. So, okay, so that came.
It's unencumbered, just basically.
Do good works in the
Good works,
library. So,
Yeah, I think we show that under a line that says grants.
Right, it's,
so he asked me to come with a few ideas of things. I mean, $1,500.
first I want to publicly thank him for doing that, because he can spend the $20,000 on whatever he wanted to, so in his district. So first I want to thank the Assemblyman for, you know, looking out for libraries.
Yeah.
So and then we asked you for a couple ideas.
Okay, so a couple ideas. One, we could fund a program for evenings or summer in the park, so that we could fund a performer down there. Can invite the assemblyman to that. We could also do, it's always an easy thing to put it towards children's programming. We could come up with a couple, at least one really good performer or good performers for that. We can do children's programming and again, invite the assemblyman to come and say thank you. And then finally, we could replace some of the equipment in the children's room, things like the kitchen, some of the more durable, not the little toys, but some of the larger toys. We can replace some of those things and then because you want to thank elected officials, so.
I know, Jeff, that a lot of repairs that are needed in the building are beyond this price point, but was there anything at all building wise
Well,
that?
I will say, I mean, the sort of the immediate things are the cost of the replacement of the window in the children's room. That could be applied to that today, because that bill will be coming shortly, as would the cost to replace the actuator on the front door. That could all be, if you wanted to be more like a repair sort of thing, we can do that.
Thoughts? Anyone thoughts on that?
Is there like a reading nook or something that could be furnishings or comfortable? I mean, I know there's comfort spaces in the library, but is there something that we could have? And, you know, we walked in and we rearranged the furnishings right inside. The interior when we were talking to people.
Yep.
Is there some area in the library that some refurbishing that we also, I like the idea of something visible personally, because I think that's one of the reasons that legislators give you money. Can keep you happy about paying for the window, but it doesn't really benefit. But also I like something more durable.
Okay.
I respect that, Gail, and I think if we do a program, something like that, we should certainly invite the assemblyman, but he did give us those discretionary funds not to help him. I mean, certainly there's politics involved, but I don't think that how we use them. I don't think that, one, there's an expectation, or how we use them is a quid pro quo in any way. I think it's, you know, there's optics, certainly, but
I'm not disagreeing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for the amount of money we're talking about, that's why I was thinking like that kitchen that is in the children's room, I just keep coming back to that because that's expensive, but it's not, you know, uber expensive, and it sees a lot of use, and it's a thingy. You know, as far as furniture is concerned, I mean, I could come up with something with that as
No,
well.
I think the kitchen is.
I mean, $1,500, like the kitchen, I think the cost of that is
It's
approximately.
close enough to be.
Well, and for like the grocery store thing
Yeah.
that's there. I mean, we could set it aside and say, hey, we're gonna buy a new grocery store thing, and then that perhaps, you know, in a few months, we're gonna need another one, and we're gonna need new food, and we're gonna need new things that the kids just eat up. I mean, we could just say, okay, we're doing this, and then this is going to keep this fresh for the next 6 months, something along those lines. So therefore, it's both a one-time thing and something that extends a little bit. Is that enough for that? I have a fairly good sense of what play kitchens cost, but I just want to make sure.
You're in the right neighborhood about that.
What was the first thing you suggested?
To fund one of the performers for the evenings in the park over the summer.
So is that gonna make a difference? Like, are we gonna have 4 performers, but if we get his money, we'll have 5, or we're gonna
No,
just.
because those are
have
set
4?
by the town, so the
Okay.
town is in charge of that, it would just go, say, where's that?
And we sponsor one each year.
We sponsor seven, yeah, we do half, so we do half of
Yeah.
it, so.
I like the children's, it's because like we're gonna do the programs anyway, so this is something tangible. It's something that a lot of families will benefit from and use, it's visible. So of the choices, I think that resonates the most.
I guess I still, while I love the kitchen grocery store idea as well, still have a preference, I guess, to see the money go toward an actual repair.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is we should put it towards the window.
Could we also, I mean, knowing that sure. Well, we didn't hear about the window previously, so it was within your discretionary budget.
Yeah.
But we could also set it aside on the idea that things are going to continue to need to be repaired. And that could be for the next, you weren't counting on the doors.
Yeah.
Stopping.
Or the window breaking.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So it could be for the next thing that comes up.
I mean, that's okay, we need to. I think it should go to a repair.
Do we need to take a vote on it?
Oh,
Or do we leave that to your discretion?
it's under what's your discretion limit?
Well, this is not, well, my discretion is $50,000, but
I know,
that's
it's a revenue, I get it.
correct, it's a
If
revenue
you
thing.
apply the same.
I don't
thing
know,
to that,
it's just that it's a political thing, so that's
It's
a
a
political
political
issue.
thing, yeah. Right.
I don't feel strongly whether it's
Yeah.
repair. It does feel like the window and the door happen. We're having this conversation. It just feels like
Right.
we should use it for something. Just,
Well, the door did happen after the money came in, so all I'm saying, but I know the appearance, right, the first you're hearing about it, so.
So those are just things that are broken, and we're talking about like the next thing that's broken. Is there anything that is not yet broken that we could proactively put it towards to fix and make better?
So it doesn't.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
I don't know, I mean,
I mean, there's always furniture that needs replacing, so if I just was looking for something a little bit more fun, but I'm also happy to look at some furniture.
I agree, Jeff. I mean, I would really rather put the money towards something fun. It's just all of the feedback I think that we received after the results of the vote seemed to indicate that, repairs were at the forefront of everyone's minds, and I think it's a good showing to put the money toward a repair. I also understand though that the repairs the library really needs are much more expensive than this, so $1,500 is not even a whole Band-Aid. But maybe we could just go around the table. I don't know if we've heard from Lisa or Gail on what they would like to see the money go toward.
Given the discussion, I think perhaps we should put it aside and think about it a little bit more. The consensus seems to be that we should use it for some repair. So perhaps we can just put it aside and think a little bit more closely about what that might be. I like the kitchen, but I'm not as Laura said, I'm not fixed one way or another, and if we can let it, we don't have to spend it this minute.
No, you know.
So we could just,
Agendas, thank you.
yeah, take a better assessment of what we would like to take care of.
I like that idea. I have a concern though, because it is a modest sum. I'm very grateful for it, but somewhat modest. And repairs often happen very fast. We need to happen very fast, and I don't want to handcuff Jeff in terms of like, hey, this would be a great thing to use this on, but the guy can come tomorrow. Do we have to call a special board meeting for this? Do I have to get everyone's buy-in on this? Is it possible that we can just say, Jeff, this $1,500, the next time a significant repair of some kind comes up, please put this toward it and let it be known that there's something that's discretionary funds help to pay for this.
You bet.
Is that something that's possible, or is that something that people would be amenable to? I don't know if it has to be like a special project per se.
Similarly, I was going to suggest we not put it off and just go ahead and make a decision on it tonight. Jeff, could you remind me again, how much did the children's window cost?
$2,700.
Oh,
That's all gone. Right, and it wasn't, and the repair of the window was below the deductible for the insurance. So it kind of fits perfectly into that middle there, so.
Okay, I mean, I'll take a motion on this.
I make a motion that we ask Jeff to put the Assemblyman's grant toward the next repair that is necessary for the building and to report at the board meeting that follows what the funds were used for. That follows that repair, what the funds were used for.
Second, Lisa. Any further discussion on that?
I'll second.
Lisa and Michelle seconded.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Lisa.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes. Any opposition? Hearing none, I think we have a motion there.
Yes, and I feel the need to say for the benefit of the public that that does not mean that toys in the children's department or the children's section will go unreplaced. We do continue to do those as needed. It was just about directing the funds toward that, these particular funds toward that.
Okay, great. So we have direction on that. The next item on new business is director review update.
So so typically we would have started the process for this back in December, but there was a lot of other stuff going on, so we did not start it. So just to be expecting that it will start pretty much ASAP. Kristen, I think, do you still have like the forms from the other times? Yeah. So it'll go out to the staff and to us to fill out, and I will provide you with details about when it needs to be back, et cetera.
It's time that we were not going to query the staff, we were going to have Jeff do a self.
Okay, well, so some process for the review will start ASAP. Well, I guess, I'm sorry, so point being that especially if we're gonna wait and talk about it as a committee, just like be prepared that the turnaround times probably will not be extensive, like the quicker we can get through the process, the better.
Or the next day.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, going to the next agenda item, which is the next step post the bond vote. So obviously we had, a lot of people in the library in December. And we've had some time to think about the results of the vote. So I want to talk a little bit about next steps. And want to hear from the board members publicly on what I think the next steps is. I will say, from my point of view, just to lead the discussion, I think the next step should be a building committee process where we prioritize repairs from most urgent to less urgent, and put like a little bit of verbiage around each one, more than a little bit of verbiage around each one, exactly what it is, why it has to be done, what the time frame is, and a range of costs, except we know that. I think that would have a defining thing that we could work on moving forward. As far as the building committee is the whole board, so obviously people can opt out or opt in or what they want. But then we would bring that back to the full board at the March meeting. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I think there's a lot of other things that besides the just repairs that should be done to the library, obviously, but I think we need to be very deliberative about those other things and really make sure that we touch base with as many people in the community as possible. So that's not a motion, but it's just my verbal, thought.
I concur with all that. I think that we should be clear with the public that I think a lot of people are expecting some quick turnaround on this. And I think that we should be clear with the public that it is unlikely. Not unlikely, that there are a number of people who have asked about a May 2025 vote. That is not just unlikely, that is impossible from a process perspective. And there's a very good chance that a vote may not take place in 2025 at all. I would propose that once I think the first step is really what you're laying out, Mark, which is shaping what is going to be the basis for the next plan, but that doesn't mean that we don't want community buy-in.
No.
And we don't want to hear more from the public, because yes, as Michelle has said, we've all said many times, our takeaway was repairs was the number one priority, but there were other priorities as well. Those,
Yeah.
and I don't want those to completely fall off the radar. I would say that once the board, the building committee / the board has a kind of priorities list to go in, I would say that we work out toward what we want the bond vote to be, and then set forth a month-by-month plan of what the action items are for each month, what the outreach to the public will be for each month, and and what opportunities there will be for public input and discussion for each month. That doesn't mean that that is a set in stone plan, but it offers, guidelines to be flexible moving forward, so that, because I think a lot of the issues with previous bond vote was that we did a tremendous amount of work on this and there was a tremendous timeline that was not necessarily as defined to the public as it was for us. And moving forward, I would like to define every effort step by step to the public. And just, tell them what you're gonna do it, and then tell them what you just told them. So that basic process.
And just to build on that a little bit, first of all, I agree. Focus on repairs. See where we are, but I just wanted to mention, there were a number of people who I talked to who are very interested in helping us and working with us to get the word out, whatever the next steps are to the community, and help us with that outreach and communications piece. So I just want to sort of add that to our agenda, is how do we, I don't think we need another advisory group or anything like that. We are the board, and we have a very, we have a wonderful staff and we have consultants, we have lots of expertise, but I think seeking support and assistance from members of the community who have expressed a willingness to help us with that, I think that would be, because there's only so many of us. And as many ways as the library has to communicate with the public, that's just, there's always more ways that we can get the word out to folks. So that, I would just add that as an agenda item, is how do we utilize members of the public or communicate?
Yeah, I would amplify that to say, I was approached by a lot of different people, both right before the vote and after the vote, that wanted to help with whatever comes next. Both on, not just communications, but like all sorts of experts in the area, in the town, in the school district, in the voting area, that said, well, hey, did you think about this, or what about that, or I have expertise in this, I could help with that, whatever. So try to keep all those emails, texts and stuff. But yeah, I think we should. This town is full of experts. We should tap into people that want to help big time. Yeah. Sure.
So I was wondering, when we say, Jeff, it's impossible to have another vote in 2025, can you maybe just briefly explain what it is that holds up that process? I assume
Sure.
SED approval is part of it. If you could.
I'll run through that really quickly. Just so assuming that the vote's May 20th, right? That would be the May 2025 vote day. There's a 45-day public notice before the day of the vote. So that brings us to April 5th, that you'd have to have that. Previous to that, the closest school board meeting to that is April 2nd. So whatever we would have in place would need to be to the school board by April 2nd, which means really, that's the day they have to vote, which means they'd have to have it by the 28th. So it makes it onto their agenda. So the 28th of March, now we're working back, and then either a special board meeting or the March 10th board meeting. So you'd have to have everything, seeker process, cooking, ready to roll with a plan and a budget and something to put out to the public by the end of February or the beginning of March. right, from right where we are. I mean, that doesn't leave you very much time to do all that.
Certainly not to get community input.
No, yeah, right, we're just here today, right? So it's, yes, you can throw a number out there, but.
I think it would be helpful to also comment on where we are with regard to Ashley McGraw and, you know, kind of what we're doing now that the vote is.
Right, the contract's done, so there are some invoices that are continue to come in from them, I think we've seen the final one from Schoolhouse. Just as that work gets buttoned up, and then that's the end of that relationship. Until the board, until the board decides to have a different thing, that project is cooked, like it's not there, so.
I agree with that. We have to tie up our loose ends. However, there may be aspects of the project and the design that provide very useful information going forward, and some of the documents that they put together so that we have less work going forward. So as we tie up, we need to make sure that we have the documentation.
We've received everything from them, so yeah,
Did
no,
you?
absolutely, so we've
Yeah.
received everything from them, the design documents up to the point that they were completed, have been received in. And that's the question that the board will face is that your architecture firm, and then you want to move forward with that architecture firm, but we don't have a contract with them right now, we're not under contract.
No, I
You
understand
got it,
that.
so I just
Yeah,
clarifying that, so.
yeah.
But yeah, that's the decision is to, is that knowledge about the building that has been gained through the process, what's the value of that? That's something to consider. So,
Question, if we were to choose to re-RFP the process,
Yeah.
aspects of the process, what is our general time frame? What does that factor into? Timeframe?
put on an RFP, do the interviews with the board, I'm realistically talking a couple months to do that process, and that's at a sprint. To get that out and get those interviews done.
Maybe you can't answer this. Let's say we just did repairs. Does that require? Yeah.
Absolutely, I can answer that 100%. Yeah, no, we can't touch, because anything that touches on life safety, right? So the second you say life safety, anything, the project's over a certain size has to be reviewed by state ed, right? So the second it goes to state ed, you can't go to state ed without an architect or an engineer. Or ideally, usually both. So that's because the property is owned by the school district. It goes to state ed for review, and that's the limiting factor. And really, there are some things, that we felt like the replacement of the plaza. We were able to do that without SCD review, but we sought an opinion on that first, right? So anything that would deal with fire code issues, would deal with
Security.
yeah, just a lot of anything that deals with life safety, they're gonna review, that's what they review.
So just doing repairs is going to require
Yeah, right, and
us to have outside expertise and contracting with outside
right,
expertise.
I mean, so not the window, not the door,
Right.
not the plaza, but yes, of course, but also it gets pretty quickly into stuff like the boiler, which isn't all that much more expensive than that, but because of the code of the room and the way the makeup air has to be. But yeah, if you're touching asbestos, it's definitely going there. Yeah, it's nothing, you can't just like hire in a heating and plumbing company to come in and say, hey, give us a quote on a boiler. It doesn't work that way for us. So.
To kind of dovetail onto that, as we set up a plan to communicate with the public, while focusing on their input of the project, I think that part of that outreach has to be some education on what is required for the bond process. I think that we all received a lot of questions that were like, well, why is the contingency so big? Why do you have bond counsel? Why do you have seeker counts? Well, like one and the same as it turned out, but why, what are generally termed as soft costs? I feel like there was a mistaken impression in a lot of people that we were somehow adding those on for our comfort or for that they were not necessary. I think we want to educate about why that contingency is necessary, what percentage it has to be at, why no one would put up a bond without bond counsel, what the seeker process is. And add that into the communication efforts about this, and just how the cost of a bond is built as compared to the cost of the construction that we want to do. That is something that was, I think, very challenging to communicate, that the actual construction was about 28, and this used to be on the tip of my tongue, but the actual construction costs were somewhere along the lines of 28 million, but the bond was significantly more than that for all those reasons we just addressed.
And also some of the construction costs, we are required to pay prevailing wage. We can't go out and say, who's the cheapest? We're gonna pay you $20 when the state requires that you get paid $50. We have to pay what the state requires because we're a government building. So there's other costs that are out of our control that inflate the size of the project, and they're not really talked about in terms of what you're saying, so.
And that's fair. I mean, we had, through this process, a lot of us knew that in some ways as part of our professional lives, but we became much more attuned to that as part of the process. So it is perfectly reasonable that the public wants to know more about that, and that, but that requires education and so forth, so on, so.
I just want to say, I feel like it's probably glaringly apparent to everyone, but I mean, we're talking about getting feedback and et cetera. We all know that we got tons of feedback multiple times all throughout the process. So much feedback.
Right.
And clearly, the people that we were getting the feedback from, because we did our best to try to deliver the things that feedback told us people wanted, turned out to not actually be the things that people wanted. So as we're like moving forward and trying to figure out what to do next, I don't know that I have an answer to this, but like, we need to be figuring out who it is we're getting the feedback from and how we're communicating with them in some different fashion. And maybe the problem has solved itself by bringing it to a vote, and now so many more people are aware of the situation that they will indeed give feedback the next time we ask for something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's always a challenge, definitely. I think we need to do things different to reach as many people as we can.
To an extent, Sarah, just to kind of, validate what you're saying. On some level, it's also, yes, we can do many things. But there are some people who will only come to the table at the last minute. And that is a margin of error that you have to deal with, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't put safety valves in place and all of that. But I just want to say, to validate that, yes, we heard it, we tried to respond to it. The zeitgeist changed.
That's clearly.
I would say even some of the exit survey information, although it was somewhat limited in terms of the total vote, there was some information there that I think we can pay attention to.
There was a huge margin of error, in my opinion, with that exit information. We had over 4,000 people vote, and we had less than 0.5% of people do surveys. So I agree with you that we should look at it, but I think that there's a huge margin of error because most people voted and left the larger percentage.
Sarah's point, I think, well, I sort of, I'm not sure what kind of feedback we'll seek and on what, but sort of a lesson learned, and because I was on the board then, but I think I took the survey, and I don't remember there being well, how much are you willing to pay for these things? And I think that's the thing, is that people, yes, here are the things I would love to see in the library, but then we also need to couple that with, okay, what's your tolerance? What are you willing to pay for those things? If those things cost.
Do you want shoes from Pennies or do you want shoes from Louis Vuitton? Yeah.
So, and that's just, that to me was a big lesson, is you have to sort of temper the dreaming with Okay, but now what are you willing to put, are you willing to put your money where your wishes are?
Something else that I'd like to say publicly is I want to thank the public for coming out to vote. Although I think everyone around this table will be for a long time disappointed in the outcome. It was wonderful, truly, to be in the library and to see so many people here. And I think a lot of people came here and they discovered things about the library that they didn't necessarily know. They got to wind because it was so crowded, and again, just tremendous management of the building that day. They got to wind through the stacks, they got to see a lot of things. And, it was a lot of opportunity for, I think, neighbors to talk to each other and for us to talk to people. And if nothing else, it was democracy in action. Sometimes democracy gives you a result that you weren't expecting or you didn't want. But I really want to thank the public for engaging in that way. And I encourage them to engage in this new process with the same vigor that they engaged that day.
You're here.
Yeah, I want to amplify that. Having been on the board a long time and talking about this thing for a long time. Getting it to a vote was an achievement, and I'm glad that we had the turnout, because we predicted that we'd have a lot lower turnout. I think citizens of this town and the school district proved that everyone wrong, came out to vote about the library. It's important to them. I was disappointed, but it was good to see a lot of people. Definitely. So next steps. So what do people think about convening a building committee meeting sometime in the next, couple weeks? Start getting into the details on repairs and prioritization. That's something that like, okay. All right, so we'll put up.
Yep.
You
Meeting.
just want to keep your extra nights, Jeff.
It's all good.
Right. I mean, the committee will just be doing some of the work, and everything's coming back to the board. So there's nothing, something to.
Be surprised if the whole board doesn't participate in the committee.
Yep, no, me too. But that's the, okay, so that's the next steps going forward. Any other new business? I have one item, but any other?
I just would also like to thank the Friends of the Library for stepping up so quickly and so wholeheartedly with their efforts to provide support for the project. And the staff deal with this.
Yeah, I want to officially thank the staff and the Friends, definitely, for all the work they did and continue to do. This process. So my new business item is we talked about trustee, not to add another thing to the trustees, but we did talk about trustee office hours and how we used it during the bond process. And actually, I think there was interest in trying to do maybe a monthly or 6-week office hours piece. So just looking for kind of concurrence on that, because we could put a schedule out of dates. I would ask Jeff to put a schedule out of dates and people sign up to do that. And I like the idea of all different times of the day, all different days, so people get different. So to the extent that their schedule allows, and I know very people are busy, people can sign up for that, that'd be really helpful. Okay, any other new business? Any old business?
I think the only old business is the policy committee work that we need to do with regard to the meeting policy.
Yep.
As well as reviewing the staff handbook.
There's a couple others that need. Okay, we just
Yes.
giving
Let's,
you change.
the policy committee, let's kind of figure out a date to meet, prioritize, and whack up what needs to be done.
I don't think we've gotten any comments from people on the meeting.
Yes, anyone watching?
Please comment.
If you have comments on the meeting room policy, please send them.
Or from other trustees.
Yes.
And Jeff, you were gonna touch base with the staff that's involved.
Yep, I've got a report for you, and I've got, I have a few comments from. I had people comment, not because we asked them to comment, but because they came to me and wanted to talk about it, so I have a couple. Mostly about the room checkout portion. So.
How did it go with the rental agreement? Did that,
The event hasn't happened yet,
but the
but
agreement
it's
itself
all
was
executed,
acceptable
ready
and
to
it
go.
was.
Yep.
Okay, good.
They've already paid.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, well, they have to before the event. And recital 1.
Any other old business? Any future?
Very-
Michelle?
Well, it's just the sound was cutting in and out. So, as far as trustee office hours, is someone going to send around a doodle poll or
Yeah,
chart or okay? All right, great.
yeah, Jeff's gonna, I directed Jeff to put out a doodle poll and come up with different dates and times.
Now, we had just a quick question. Some of them were 2 hours long and others were an hour and a half. Do you prefer the hour and a half?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know how long to make them. So it seemed like from my perspective, the hour and a half one was a little bit more effective.
Yeah.
So does that seem reasonable?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll go with that. If it needs to be longer or shorter, we can adjust, no magic, and we'll do that.
Great, okay, quick future business. Anything else? Public participation, any public participation?
I stand here or
Wherever. It's nice to be back in the boardroom.
where, yep. You mentioned the post-election survey that was done. I think if there is a document that summarizes that, I think it would be helpful to release that in some fashion. I'm not aware of it. And in regard to the meeting room policy, I've made comments on it in the past, you know what they are. I'm glad to reiterate them at any point in time because I strongly disagree with that policy, still do so. So the real reason I'm here, my name is Bob McDonald, I'm a Delmar resident and a frequent user of this library. I borrow a lot of books. I attend programs offered by the library and by other groups, and I regularly use several online resources. Sometimes I go to the Gilderland Library for a resource online one that's not available here. And my introduction to this library came years ago when my wife and I came here to visit and brought our children to the children's library. All of which is to say that the quality of this library matters a great deal to me, and I'm sure to many others in this town. There is an issue which I think impacted the bond vote to only a small degree, but I think it has important meaning for this library beyond the building project. So over the past few months, as the project was being discussed, there were a lot of comments concerning the project found in newspapers, made at public events and so forth. And some of these comments expressed concerns about the library and its services. These comments, some cases, disturbed me, and they demonstrate what I believe is a very narrow view of what this library should be. By this, I refer to statements that we've heard over the past months that this library should not be a community center, or that the library of things is inappropriate because these are items that can be purchased, or that the library is becoming a daycare center, seemingly meaning that children's activities don't belong here, or that the library is not a place for cooking classes or yoga, and presumably for many other types of craft or educational events. Some commenters said that no meeting space is needed here, just make use of the space that's available in the town hall or in the high school. Some said there should be no 3D printer or maker space here. All of these statements to me suggested a very severely limited role for this library. Without what some people have called frills or luxuries. A library which loans reading materials and does pretty much nothing else.
30 seconds.
I urge the library and trustees to not accept these statements as representing the beliefs of the Bellingham community. They are not, I am sure, the sentiments of most residents. The bond lost because of its cost, not because most voters, want to restrict the role of the library. That was not the message that was being sent. Library should be, one last sentence, the library I believe the Bethlehem Library should be expansive in its approach to library services and to the community. And I urge the trustees to continue to support that expansive role. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment?
Yeah, I'm Ann Moore, for those of you who forgot who I was. Trying to do this so that my back is not toward people, which is rude. Thank you. All right, I'm just some comments based on the conversation tonight about next steps about the library. I want to remind people that this is not the first time that the library board has asked this community to vote on a bond. Vote on spending money.
Can you speak up?
Can I speak up? I absolutely can, and I will. This is not the first time that this board, different people, but the board has asked this community to vote on spending money, whether it was buying a house or a bond vote, right? Every single time you have asked the community to do that, it has been defeated at the polls. Okay, so I am hearing the same mindset that is going to guarantee the next thing being defeated as well. Over and over, I've heard folks say, we need to communicate with the public. We need to communicate what we're doing with the public. And I'm not disagreeing with that. But what you need to do is allow the public to communicate with you extensively about what it is that they really want out of this building before you start communicating to the public what it is that you're going to do. And that has always been the problem, is that it has come from one direction, and the community, or not the community, the school district is supposed to support you. And the problem is that you have not effectively allowed them to communicate with you before you have formulated a plan. Right? Just as I said the first time I came here about 3 years ago, you folks sent out a survey. I live 3 doors down. I didn't get it. I mean, I'm right here in the neighborhood. All right? So if I don't get it, and I'm right down there, how many other people did not get it? And you know that I have opinions, okay? You may like them or you don't. I have expertise in dealing with kids and dealing with adults, okay? So the reality is you need to flip the way you're thinking. It is not that you communicate to the community or to the school district. You allow them to communicate with you, and you work collaboratively to develop a plan that encompasses, yeah, some things that you want, but some things that we want, because ultimately we're the folks who are paying for this. And you clearly heard that that's important, the last vote. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
I make some comments. My name is Jim Mosier. I live in the community here. I have since 1978. My kids were two kids were both educated with Bethlehem School District. My experience, work experience, comes from the construction industry, design and construction industry, particularly in the public sector, and working with projects that are fun. In review of the process that you've gone through, I realize that it's an extensive project, and you had some extensive thoughts and wishes within that project to make it happen. And I think what you heard back, just in summary, from the community is it was too expensive. Regardless of whether all these things were wanted or needed or whatever, I think the question was failed to be responded to in your consideration is, what can this community afford? What are they willing to pay? And then you have to design your program to fall within the parameters that you think they'll afford. There's plenty of information out there about the cost of construction of libraries, renovations of libraries throughout the area. And the dollar amount of the construction of this particular project was grossly higher than anything else that's cost the area in relation to this. So I think your first step is got to go back and say, along with all the surveys that you want to do, all the construction costs that you want to prioritize and put first and put a project together, is you have to answer the question, what will the community afford? Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment? Yep, sure.
I'm Rick Bird. I didn't get my name on the list to speak, but forgive me, let's be short. To Mr. Mosier's point, I do think the project, as much as I wanted to do something, was just twice as much as I was willing to pay for 25 years over the bond. And in coming from a similar, somewhat construction background, it seemed like, why did we need to remove the second floor? Just close it off and leave it there. You don't have to remove it. Why did we have to put in geothermal? Yes, it would have been wonderful, but it's very, very expensive. And the community room, which someone else mentioned, of we really need something that large when we needed something bigger, but did we need it that big? So just things that I have heard from other people that might not necessarily have gotten back to you, and I didn't quite know how to do that either. I did the exit survey, and I think I put that in there, but wasn't sure how else. So
Yeah.
my 2 cents.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yeah.
Sure. Hi, I'm Oliver Holmes, and I've lived in Del Mar for a long time, and I have been to some of your meetings and written some letters. My first point is, there were people tonight who were speaking on the board, were speaking so soft that I couldn't hear you. And I have spoken to Jeff in the past, and I really would like for you to deal with this accessibility issue that another person mentioned here tonight. It's difficult for some of us, and some of you I can hear, some of you I cannot. So I really gonna have to go home tonight and listen to the video to understand what you said. So that's point one for me. And so if you can move forward with something, I would really appreciate that, as I'm sure. Second, I'm a building professional as well, been in it for over 30 years in design, construction, and planning, and I've done libraries. Ames College, among others, which is one of the most magnificent I've ever done. There are some challenges you face. You have a lot of new opportunities, and you really did look forward thinking in a lot of ways. And I think that's important for this community. If you're going to do something 30, 40, 50 years before you get to do it again, you really have to be forward thinking. You have to get out of the box a little bit. You got to challenge yourself with where you've been and where you want to be, meaning the community. And I look at what the school district has done. They can do $100 million projects and they never get voted down. Why is that? Look at why that happened. Why did that occur? What makes it different than what happened for your project? Another step is, as you and the others mentioned tonight, I believe, when you look forward, there's things you have to do. And it may not happen this year that you pass a project. It's something in 2026, it may be 2027. I don't really know. But in the interim, this building is needing repairs. And how do you prioritize them to do what's financially responsible, to do what needs to be done for the facility, for the community, the building itself in the interim before you ever get to another project? And to do that, I really think you're going to need to bring in some expertise to help you facilitate that conversation. And that conversation, I even suggested at some point early, one of the meetings we had here, where building construction management professionals should have been on your team early to help you go through that. And that would have helped you, I think, make some critical decisions about what the costs were against scope and whether you did it in 1 phase, 2 phases, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you should, or you really ought to think through how you might bring in someone outside of an architect and engineer professional to help you facilitate those design, renovation, repair decisions.
Thanks. Anyone else? Public comment? Okay, hearing none, I'll move towards adjournment. Motion. Laura, second. Carolyn, all in favor signify by saying yes or raise your hand. In opposition, your meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yes.
Where's that?